I have just a single thickness thin strip of the plastic that's in the same contour as the front here, so I'm going to glue it onto the front. And it'll be up against this fence and the other fence, and then I'm going to bevel the edge a little bit, and that's what the front of the cover is going to stick to, hopefully. Okay, for headlights we're going to use H4352, that's the high beam, and the low beam is H4351, and they're funny looking little narrow lights looking like this, and they have little tabs on the glass that I used a Dremel tool to get rid of because we're going to mount them flush into the plastic. So after you carefully measure your headlights, then you will cut nice square holes in a piece of the same plastic so that you can mount them from behind. And I also glued a little strip of extra plastic on either side where the headlights mount so that the headlights will go in from behind, and then I've got a little metal bracket that's going to hold them from and kind of squeeze them in. So the lights are back up against the bulkhead as tight as they will go, and then they are pushed in the back of the piece of plastic with the little holder bracket on. The reason we put them in from the back is because if a bulb blows out, you have to be able to remove the whole sealed beam unit. So if you put it on the inside, once the whole box is sealed up, you'll never get it out again. So once you have that just sort of set in, it's not glued or anything, then you put your hood down, and then you look at it from the front and you try and match this edge here, which you've already got, and this edge over here, which you've already got, and then you draw a line across that follows the contour of the hood, and then we'll trim it off around there, and then hopefully the glass lens will fit properly. So when you're ready to glue the back light panel onto your box, put the lights in, plug it into the harness, it's the exact same plugs, and then check and see how the alignment, the light alignment works compared to the piece of tape you put on the wall in front of your car when you started it. For the covering lens, I made it out of a thinner Lexan. It looks like it's about 1.5 millimeters thick or so. You just cut it out to fit the hole, and then you have to tape off the center part because we're going to leave that clear, and then you paint just the edge with whatever your body color is. So body color and clear coat. Then you pull the tape off that you would tape the center section with, and then you have your lens. Obviously it takes a while to cut it a little large and then sand the edges to get it to fit just right. And then you can put it onto your box and see if the edges line up flush and adjust as necessary. This is just a shot of the headlight cover taped up before painting. Now I leave the protective plastic on the underside because that's not going to be painted, and I just peel that off right before I install it. But plastic is peeled off, and then you just tape around. I use electrical tape for the fine edge, and then just cover the rest with blue tape. Okay, so here's my final box before painting. The walls were all glued with this stuff, which is pretty amazing. It's called Loctite Instant Mix Epoxy, and it comes with two little squirt things that mix it automatically.
The only problem is once you've mixed it in the little syringe thing as it's being squirted out, you've got like a couple minutes of use and then the whole thing hardens. Then you pop off that squirter and you put the next one on, but you run out of squirters before you run out of the epoxy. So that's what I glued it up with. And then to get a good seal, I went around all the joints with something called 3M Marine Adhesive Sealant Fast Cure 5200. This stuff will hold anything, anywhere. So I used it just like regular caulk, smeared it in, then put a little alcohol on my fingers and smoothed it out. So all the inner seams are done with that, so we can hopefully make this airtight. I also put a stripe on the outside where there is an obvious edge, again to try and make it airtight. And so I've got the little build-up on the front of the couple layers to help it sit on the shelf. And on the back, it's the single sheet of plastic, but then I put an extra little strip up here to widen this out so it'll have more surface area to put the caulk on to hopefully get a good seal on the lens cover. I put a strip here and a strip down here, again to hold the bracket to hold the lights in, and we'll use just regular old caulk around there so that if you lose a light, then you can always pull it out and re-caulk it. The 5200, boy, once that stuff sets, it's not coming out. So we're going to just use regular window caulk. The key thing that I hadn't mentioned before is I put a little hole here. Doesn't have to be very big. That's what's going to stop the pressure inside from getting too high when the sun's out. And you're going to have to sacrifice a little teeny piece of Gore-Tex from one of your pieces of clothes and glue that over this hole, but don't get glue in the center. And the Gore-Tex will allow air to escape when it's hot, but will not allow water vapor to come in and fog up your lights. So hopefully that'll work. So that's the deal. So now we'll squirt a little primer on it. So that's what it looks like with drying primer and the headlights pinched in by the bracket, but I haven't caulked them yet. So that's the general look for the moment.
So here's pretty much the finished bucket. I wasn't sure whether to do black inside or red inside. I decided to do red, and then I put some black trim. It's just half-inch aluminum bar that comes in a 6-foot length, and just cut it down and fit it. So the lights are pinched on the back. The nice thing is that the original wiring fits into the plugs just fine. I haven't caulked these in yet, but now I'm ready to put it in the car and try and caulk the lens on top. And after that's dried and everything, then I'll finally do the lights in the back. I do have my Gore-Tex patch on here, donated from a pair of rain pants. Doesn't take much though. So I've test fit my outer cover, and it seems to fit pretty darn good. So now I'm going to pop it off, smear caulk on the edges of the bucket and put it on and sort of tape the edges and hope it comes out okay.